Okay, well, welcome everybody. Again, thank you for joining us. Um, we have been since August in the process of the resettlement, of course, of the Afghans. But really important for us to highlight that resettlement, it's more than just Afghans. Whilst the Afghans have really been the bulk of the work that has been done. Primarily since September. We're also seeing increased arrivals in the number of refugees from other parts of the world, and we're going to get the opportunity to talk a little bit about that. But the efforts that we are making, not just as the International Institute, but as a community to welcome these new arrivals really continues, and it's going to continue even beyond this highly compressed arrival of the Afghans. Now, with the Afghans, we've moved most of them into permanent housing, which is a great step. I think we still have two large families that we need to move into permanent housing. But their journey to be successful in this community continues. It's beyond housing. It's getting them the needs that they have to be able to meet their short-term obligations, giving them the tools necessary for them to be successful. It's workforce development, is attending to their healthcare needs as those are going to be determined. So there's still a long way ahead of them, and for the few that have had the opportunities to have conversations with, that realization is beginning to set in that this is not just about the first 3 months of arrivals, but that it's a lot more. And at the International Institute, that we do more than just resettlement. It's actually creating the pathways for them to be successful, to thrive in this community. And by so doing, it is the wider community that benefits. So we're going to talk about, some of the next steps, some of the things that have been happening. We did give you a broader picture of the Afghan support program and some of the things that we're doing last week. And as we talk about resettlement, we cannot be oblivious, and I wish we had even more details to share with you with reference to the situation with Ukraine. But the Biden administration this past weekend, did begin to provide some clarity towards the potential arrival and resettlement of Ukrainians. And at this point, we hope that we can all join in the advocacy to encourage the federal government to think beyond just the Parole program, but to also call on Congress to make allocations that will help the Ukrainians to be successful, because at this point, individuals could sponsor Ukrainians into the United States, but they will not necessarily have access to the benefits some of the benefits that we're having now for the Afghans. Of course, circumstances may change with a little bit of conversations with Congress. Hopefully, Congress looks into that and makes the financial allocations so that we can provide support to Ukrainians who are coming here. But we're keeping our ears close to the ground and looking at that development. And even we're going to be looking at how we as a community can be able to position ourselves in a way that if the Ukrainians are looking for a place to settle, we can provide refuge for them here in St. Louis. So more to come on that. Hopefully, in the next 2 weeks, we'll have more detailed information. In the meantime, our agenda today is going to just cover our usual resettlement updates. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the TAO Fund, which we had mentioned in one of our meetings, but the TAF Fund has really played a vital role in the efforts of the resettlement of the Afghans. And we just wanted to revisit that and paint a picture of how the funds have been used, why it is necessary, and the need for us to replenish that fund, because it's really been effective in helping out. And then we'll go on to do some community support shout outs for the continuous help that we get from the community as in the last 2 weeks. Then we'll open up for question and answers if there are any. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to our Senior Vice President here at the International Institute, Blake Hamilton, for the resettlement updates, and Blake will also be covering the TAF Fund uses. Blake.
Thanks, Ray. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us again today. I've lost track of the amount of these that we've done. I think now we're over 30, I believe. But thank you all for your continued interest in being a part of this process, as it is a process that is continuing. Quick note on arrivals. We have seen a handful of arrivals in the last couple of weeks. We had 2 cases arrive last week, and another 2 that will be arriving this week. That's 4 cases, a total of 23 individuals in those cases. These cases are all from Africa. They are either from Sudan or Democratic Republic of Congo. We do have several of these cases are very large. They are staying in temporary housing while we are securing more permanent housing. I just want a quick plug regarding that. We are still in need of additional leads for housing. We thank everybody here who's helped us with that in the past, getting connected to landlords. We could still use that assistance, especially as we anticipate more Afghan arrivals coming in the next few months ahead of the end of the federal fiscal year in September. We know those cases will continue to be large, and we will continue to have that need for 3, 4, and 5 bedroom apartments. Regarding employment, there has been some good news on that front. Since December 1st, we have had about 76 job placements for newly arrived Afghans, which is functionally more than half of all the cases that we have received. So we're happy to see that progress. And of course, this is a little bit slow going due to delays in work authorization documents being available. But we're now seeing a lot more connection to employment for our arrivals, and this is happening fundamentally on a similar timeline the way it has with other populations. So even considering the delays in EAD, folks are getting jobs still fairly quickly. Our average wage for those job placements is $15.66 per hour. We're very proud of that. And in fact, within our network, this constitutes amongst the highest average starting wages for any resettlement agency in our network of 33 different resettlement agencies operating in many different states. So we're very pleased to have that number due to we're seeing a lot of news about rising wages, and of course this is one component of that, where we're seeing that, I should say, play out in this average wage. But we're still getting a lot of interest from employers who are interested in hiring our clients who are arriving. We want to continue providing opportunities for employers to meet their hiring solutions through partnership with the International Institute. And so we're continuing to work with employers that do reach out. Regarding housing, in the last 2 weeks, we had 26 people, 3 cases moved from the hotel. Now, of course, those numbers, we've also seen these arrivals come, these larger cases come. And so at present, we have 4 cases that are actually in the hotels, 29 people. as of yesterday, although we do have one case that we expect to be moving out later this week, we hope. So for the next part of the update, I want to dive a little bit more into housing and where folks are finding permanent housing. We have done an analysis of the addresses by zip code, and wanted to share some of that information with you all. For all of our arrivals to date, from going back from October 1st, 74% are establishing permanent residence in the city, with 26% establishing permanent residence in the county. And this is something that we've been talking about on these calls, is the need to expand the footprint where folks are finding permanent housing. And this is very different, right? If you would have looked at this number going back years, the cumulative total of all arrivals of the last 3 or 4 years, you'd still see about 96% are finding housing in the city. So this change to now more than a quarter of all of our clients residing in the county, that is a shift. And these clients are not just concentrated in a handful of zip codes. In fact, we have housing in 21 different zip codes across the region, extending into the further reaches of St. Louis County, as well as some of the collar municipalities as well. So while we have 21 different zip codes, 68% of all arrivals are still being resettled in 3 zip codes, and that is 63116, 63118, and 63123, which are right here near the Institute in South City. Of course, we've always said that is our preference due to the volume of services that we're providing, and of course, the excellent ESL program that exists within St. Louis Public Schools is another benefit. And we're still seeing that, right, at a predominant number of folks settling near to the Institute. But with that 26% in the county and still more that are spread into different zip codes across the city, we are still having to do much more remote service than we have in the past. Given to the delays in finding housing for some of the larger cases, we are also concerned about making ends meet for some of these cases, given how little might be left of their resettlement allowance, and still maybe delays seeking or being able to go to work. And that is kind of a segue into our next section here around our TOW fund. And I can say that we intend to provide a little bit more of an extensive report around all the zip codes where clients are within. Likely by our next meeting, we'll have a much more detailed map available. But in terms of supporting those clients who've made their way into permanent housing, one way that we can continue to do that when emergencies arise is through the TOW fund. And you've heard us mention the William K. White TOW fund previously, but a little bit of background on that. It was actually established in 2009 by William Tow and his family, with the express purpose of providing emergency assistance to new arriving families being served by the International Institute. As we talked about before, the resettlement allowance is meager and time limited. And for large families, that can make really an abrupt transfer of responsibility once they exit out of the program, now that they are responsible for a lot of household costs and expenses. Where there are employable adults, still it can be difficult making ends meet. And that's where the TOW fund has jumped in to provide that support for struggling families for more than a decade now. The TOW fund is used in a wide variety of ways. When we talk about emergency assistance, some of the costs that are included here are rent, utilities, groceries, and hot meals for those that have been in hotels without access to kitchens, as well as healthcare costs, medication costs, and of course, in this recent influx of arrivals, temporary housing costs have all been covered in part through the TOW fund. The TOW fund is our sort of general support fund. Anybody can make donations into the TOW fund through our website, or by restricting a donation through a check. But we really have relied heavily on the TAO fund to make really ends meet for a lot of families that are still waiting for access to benefits, that are still waiting for access to employment, as we again have seen an inordinate amount of folks being reliant on this over the last 6 or 8 months due to the changing landscape around supports for Afghan arrivals. The TAO fund, just to give you an example of kind of what we have seen in terms of fluctuation within the TAO fund. In the month of August 2021, we actually had $71,450 in contributions to the TAO fund, and our expenses to TAO were quite low. Of course, in August, this was really prior to any Afghan resettlement. This was still centered around the fall of Kabul, and I think it was resonant in folks' minds. We started to see more donations coming in anticipation of arrivals, though our expenditures remained low. Folks had not arrived. $1,800 is about what we kind of see on a monthly basis for when we have low arrivals as we had prior to Afghan arrivals. Then in December 2021, we started to see a little bit more of a shift. We still saw contributions high, not quite as high, but still very high, but expenses increased 7.5-fold, right? That was a big challenge, as we had new arrivals, and still in December, rules and regulations around what financial supports would be made available to Afghans were still being written. And so we very heavily relied on TAO to begin to cover some of these hotel expenses for folks that were coming in. Then, in February, we see really a flip, right? We see contributions to TAO decrease dramatically in the month of February, while expenses increased exponentially. We had $182,000 in expenses to TAO, and we chronicled with on these calls and in other community conversations the costs that we were incurring, including for hotels upwards of $40,000 a week that we were seeing in many instances, and that was just for the hotel costs plus food. And so we still see those numbers quite high, but February, frankly, would be the highest. Just yesterday, we paid invoices to the hotels where folks are staying, and the total amount of those invoices was $2,000, which was obviously a big change from $40,000 a week. So we have seen sort of the need decrease, but likewise, the TAO fund really needs to be reimbursed in order for us to be able to say that these funds are going to be available for new arrivals who are coming down the line. And though expenses have decreased dramatically, we still need to increase additions to the TAO fund in order to make this a secure fund to support clients with emergency needs going forward. An example of kind of the costs that we're looking at in that February month was are laid out here. The temporary housing costs are not just the cost, of course, the room rental, but grocery cards for folks who are staying in those apartments. Afghan bread was something that we were providing as a staple in the community. And of course, halal meat. Grocery stores commonly in our community do not have halal meat. And in order to help folks express their religious adherence, we want to make sure that we're providing that as well. And of course, the cost of doing laundry at these hotels, there's coin-operated laundry, providing detergent, fabric softener, etc. And so when we break down these costs, we have sort of a monthly per client cost. So for donations to the TAO fund of $757 or more, that donation is helping the hotel costs for one client for 1 month. And you can see that even the smallest donations can have a significant impact in keeping folks in clean clothes or eating culturally appropriate foods and supported through groceries as well. The total monthly cost per client in the month of February was $938.68, and that's where we're kind of drawing these charges from. It's worth noting at that time that we had 200 clients in temporary housing in the month of February, not necessarily for the entire month. But you can see how we got to those $180,000 in expenses in the month through TAO very, very quickly. So this is, we want to provide this transparency to the community members who are on this call who've made donations, and talk a little bit more about the real costs that we've been incurring through this period, that the community has really been able to step up and support, and to say that this work isn't done. As we hope to be able to get more arrivals coming in the coming months, we want to make sure that the TAO Fund stays robust and available for new arrivals who need help making those ends meet. And so with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Ray.
Well, thank you very much, Blake, for covering those two items on the agenda, the resettlement and particularly the TAO Fund. And just to say that, the TAO Fund is, everything that is donated into the TAO Fund completely goes to support refugees. Nothing in the TAO Fund goes to support the operations of the International Institute. This is direct support that goes to the clients. And it's been, without that fund, this effort would not have been successful. It's largely largely thanks to your contributions and your support that we kept that fund. And as we look forward to these other arrivals, because of the compressed arrivals that we had with Afghans, we're out of stock again in terms of housing, even though we're having some inroads. But when you begin to look at the large families, it's complicated again. And so we need to rely on transitional housing whilst we're trying to find those larger units that can take the large families. So the effort continues, and the need for reliance on TAO funds continues. So we thought we should plug this in as you think about ways in which you could support the Institute, or ways in which your network can support the Institute. The TAO Fund seems to be a good place to put money into, so that we can bridge these gaps that exist between federal funding and the needs that our new arrivals have. At this point, we're going to go on to community shout outs, and then we'll come back to question and answers. So if you have any questions with reference to this, you need to already drop those in the chat, and we'll pick those up, or we're going to allow for time at the end to ensure that we answer your questions. And with reference to community shout out, I'm going to turn this over. It's Kelly. I guess Kelly is in the command center, so I cannot see Kelly, but I'm hoping that she's there.
We like to have a watch party in the command center. We have 5 of us staff members here, so anybody's welcome to join us any time. But good afternoon, everybody. It's so great to be here. I'm feeling positive because the sunshine is out and it was not hot in the gym today. So we have some great community shout outs. I say this most weeks, that this is my favorite part of the call. It's very informative what we give you, and we have high expectations that all of the information that Blake and Ray have now shared with you, that you will share with our family and friends across the region. But community support, we can't do it without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Little Angels Foundation. We had an extremely successful event last Saturday. Thank you to my coworkers for working most of the day. We were able to hand out prepackaged boxes of staple food items, and that included, as you can see, 110 cases. So that was amazing. Yesterday, was it yesterday? Yesterday, we celebrated our first ever Fastathon, STL. And that was also in collaborations of Little Angels Foundation and the Afghan Community Support Program. And we welcomed family and friends in the courtyard last night. It was an intimate gathering, but very useful for community engagement. So thank you, Little Angels Foundation, for the beautiful dresses, gowns. They were more like gowns, traditional dress, they're gorgeous. So we were able to give away those dresses in anticipation for Eid, and we were able to grow in community and be with each other. House of Goods continues to be a stable source of food. So thank you, House of Goods. You're doing amazing work. Kindness Begins With Me is continuing English classes and women's programs for the, was it 39 or 29 people in hotels right now. So that is wonderful. We're helping those children and women have some activities during the day. So thank you, Kindness Begins With Me. This week, I was excited to receive information that we received a contribution from the James S. McDonald Foundation. So thank you to them for supporting the work that we do and the continuing way to make our city inclusive. And thank you to Villa de Maria Montessori School. We haven't been saying it very much, but gift cards are still always welcome and needed. So we appreciate any gift cards, no matter how big and small. They'll go to good use. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's go to the next slide and see what's coming up. So we have a busy May. I mean, I feel like April was only 2 days long because I feel like we just started April. But here comes May. Here we go. We are going to be celebrating a prayer that's called, I'm not the best at pronouncing this, Eid al-Fitr. Okay, Nargis is telling me how to say it, but that basically means it's a prayer for Eid. We don't know the date yet, but it's going to be either May 1st or May 2nd. This is going to be in the morning at St. Louis Community College at Merrimack. So look for that announcement. We would love to have Muslims and non-Muslims and community members be there for the community prayer together. May 7th, I'm excited for the Soccer Saturdays party. Basically, this is the end of a 13-week program provided by the Afghan Community Support Program and Football Club STL. So for all of you, or some of you who may have been to Soccer Saturdays, it's an interesting dilemma because we don't have that many people in the hotels. So the 3 soccer fields are not that crowded anymore. We only have, what was it, 29 people in hotels. That means, let's say 20 children or, but we really, other people are still coming. It is open for kids, refugee and immigrant children. It's open. We have 3 fields. So let's get people there on the last day of May 7th. And that is also when we will be announcing the continuation of the soccer program. So please, if you haven't been yet and you'd love to see community in action, that is a fun place to do it. And then lastly, a festival for May 14th, we are going to have an Eid festival. More details to come, but save the date. That's 2 o'clock from 8 p.m. It's also a community festival, part of the Afghan Community Support Program and the community, right? We want people from all over to join us in celebration. There's going to be face painting, balloon maker people that are wonderful. So it's definitely for children. Football Club STL is located in the city off of Kings Highway in Manchester, and the ages of children are anywhere from 5 to about 18. So then because we're so full of events, I wanted to put a few save the dates on there. This summer is going to be beautiful. We're going to have lots of time to be together. We're, knock on wood, if I were sitting at a wood table, we're out of the pandemic and we can have community events. But June 18th, we're celebrating and advocating for World Refugee Day here at the International Institute. July 2nd, we will be participating in America's Birthday Parade. And back in popular demand in Tower Grove Park, August 27th and 28th, we are planning a in-person live Festival of Nations. Let's hear it for our festival. Nobody's cheering with me in the room. Yay! Yay! Thank you. Woohoo! I got a yay on the speaker. Thank you. This is going to be bigger than ever. So get ready. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. But again, the only way we're amazing is for community members like you on the call. So That's all for right now. I'm going to turn it over to my coworker, Carlos, who is going to be amazing and tell you what we still need. Here we go, Carlos.
All right, well, thank you, Kelly, and great to see everyone again this afternoon. Just as a reminder that we have a number of volunteer opportunities still on our website, anywhere from our community support programs to interviews for mock interviews for people in their job search, and our women's community literacy program through our education department. So still a plethora of opportunities to get involved. And so we hope to see some more familiar faces, as well as Kelly and Blake mentioned earlier, with our grocery gift cards and TAO fund. You know, we still love to receive grocery gift cards to Schnucks and Aldi, as well as those donations to the TAO fund that can be allocated to new arrivals and supporting them into the future. We're going to go to the next slide. Just as a reminder, if you are interested or know somebody that's interested in volunteering, they can go to our website /volunteer. And also those that are looking to partner and collaborate with our the new arriving families, WAFA, who leads our community support program. We're still looking for individuals or groups of individuals that want to support those new arrivals here in St. Louis in order to integrate these families into the fabric of St. Louis. So we still appreciate individuals or groups of individuals that would like to participate and get involved in this way. And of course, donations to the International Institute and to the TAO Fund can be made by going to our website /donate. So thank you in advance for those contributions, and we'll go to the next slide. And just a way of continuing to follow and engage with our platforms and amplify our messages within the community. We have an active presence on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our general contact information, as well as the International Institute website. So just grateful for everyone's collaboration and sharing the good message as we move forward here into the future. So thanks again.
Well, thank you very much, Carlos and Kelly and everyone out there at the Command Center, and for the great work that you've been doing. It was really good to see the families come out last Saturday to pick up food in collaboration with the Little Angel Foundation. At least 110 families, amounting to nearly 400 people, received food that would help them plan the feasts at the end of this fasting season. So that was amazing. I really want to highlight the collaboration with Little Angels Foundation, and also manifested itself yesterday in the distribution of the clothes, so our new arrivals can celebrate the end of Ramadan with the dignity that they would have celebrated were they back in their home country. So all of this efforts is designed to help our new arrivals really feel welcome in this community and consider this place as home for them. With that in mind, I'll just pause here and take any questions that anybody in the audience may have, either by way of the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat so far.
Ari, my name is Chris Rice with New Life Evangelistic Center, and could you expound a little bit more on the difference between humanitarian parole and refugee, and what the Institute is looking at doing as Ukrainians come in through this United with Ukraine program that was designated this past weekend? I know that individuals, as you said, can sponsor a family coming from Ukraine, and my organization is really interested in providing secure housing for free initially for Ukrainian people coming either under humanitarian parole or refugee status. but I'd like to understand more about what the Institute is looking on doing to help those individuals coming under that program.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris, for that really pertinent question. I'm going to respond to this, and Blake, if at any one point you would like to add, you can. But the humanitarian parole is really where the federal government grants entry to any group of people into the United States based on the fact that there is a humanitarian need. And the humanitarian parole is usually a shorter process that is done based on the emergency of the circumstances. And those circumstances will differ based on what the crisis is. Over the years, those have changed. Whilst the US refugee program is actually a defined longer process where there is a system that is put in place that vets people who are typically designated outside the United States as refugees. They go through a vetting program and then they arrive, then they're designated to come into the United States, and they arrive in the United States. Fundamentally, there's a difference in these processes. The humanitarian parole usually do not have all the benefits that are part of the US Refugee Assistance Program, right? So they come into the country without the employment authorization of, even though when they get into the US, they can apply for the employment authorization, but do not have all the other benefits that people who are come into the country through the US Refugee Assistance Program have, such as the housing assistance, access to food benefits. They come as a designated refugee. Upon arrival, you already have an employment authorization. So those are the fundamental differences. And if we look at what happened in the case of the Afghan arrivals, they were designated as through the humanitarian parole program, and then eventually benefits were allocated to them over a period of time. We cannot say that that would happen with the Ukrainian situation because, like I said, these circumstances have been different and unprecedented. So we'll see how that plays out in the case of the Ukrainians. Based on what was sent out last weekend by the Biden administration, it's our understanding, or at least the program as it stands now, says that Ukrainians who were in the who lived in Ukraine up till, I think, April 11th, I cannot remember what specific date, can come to the United States if they have an individual, then the criteria of individuals or organizations that are sponsoring them. And there's a form, it's called, I think, D1 134, something like that, where they have to fill that form for those individuals to be able to make the case that they can come to the United States and they would have a sponsor. That's where we stand now. As an organization, like I said earlier, we're going monitoring the situation, and we would have a clear understanding of what we can, as an institution or organization, in collaboration with this community, be able to do for the Ukrainians that will be arriving here. But, Blake, yeah. Is there anything that you would like to add into this?
Yeah, I included the link to the explanation of the Uniting for Ukraine program. Yeah, that's on the USCIS website. I would encourage anybody who's interested in learning more to go there. The fact is that this is an evolving situation, and this is the first of what we expect to be several responses. Right now, the program is functionally designed to be an individual sponsorship program. We are awaiting word from our national agency around efforts that they would like to undertake in order to, in mass, be able to provide this sort of individual sponsorship for humanitarian parole. And so we're kind of waiting to see what might be available to us as an organization to help engage in this process. But I think it's worth noting, very critically, that the supports that were quickly put in place for Afghans were atypical. And we cannot necessarily go forward with the expectation that likewise housing assistance, medical assistance, mental health assistance, all that will be made available to arriving humanitarian parolees from Ukraine. And so it functionally is a challenge to figure out how might we be able to support these folks absent any federal supports. And we want to make sure that those supports are in place before jumping wholeheartedly into a sponsorship program through the International Institute. And for us to be able to ascertain what role we might play, we need to understand what the government supports will be. And hopefully, as this sort of gets more fleshed out over the weeks and months, and we have a little bit more clarity around the program, we'll be, of course, keeping everybody up to date in this space around our actions.
Yeah, thank you, Blake, for that. So I've read DHS's statement and what USCIS has stated over humanitarian parole. In terms of my ministry, we want to partner and complement the International Institute in the near future as you guys learn more about your response in particular to Ukrainian humanitarian parolees who are coming in. We're very interested and are already in the process of acquiring housing and providing that for Ukrainian parolees or refugees, however this kind of pans out in the near future. And so I do have more questions, but I understand that this is, so maybe we can set up a time in the future to discuss that partnership and how we can help out in that way.
Would love to set that up, absolutely. Thank you.
Taking me forever to unmute myself. Chris, you said you were with the New Life. Can you just remind me again?
Yes, New Life Evangelistic Center. It's a ministry here in St. Louis that's been historically serving homeless men and women. And I mean, we still do that. We have some missions in India, and we're really looking at starting a program. The program would function in this way. We would provide free housing for Ukrainian parolees or refugees while they come in. I met with Ariel Burgess recently with the International Institute and discussed this program. And that's how I got involved in this community meeting. But essentially, for a set period of time, we would provide free housing and then set them up on kind of like a payment plan or rent plan where they would pay the ministry back for whatever we invested in rehabbing this home. And they would own the home eventually if that was something that they wanted to do. So the program would either operate as transitional housing. We would help them find jobs and move on to a place that they desire, or we would work with them so that they would own the home that they're originally staying at.
Okay, great. Absolutely would like to have further conversations with you. Would like to explore these opportunities. We'll look forward to a partnership with you to as this unfolds. So we will be in touch with you, Chris, to talk about this. Thank you so much for your interest and for finding solutions. Housing continues to be a huge challenge, and it's good to have partners in the community that are addressing this. So we'll be looking forward to the collaboration. Any other questions from anyone else who Seeing none, I would want to thank you all for being here today, for coming on this journey with us. This Wednesday meetings are very enlightening, not just for our partners, but even the members of the International Institute team, because it gives us the opportunity to step back and look at how far we've come, what we've achieved, and reinforces the notion that we are not alone, that we're working with all of these organizations around the table that are in many ways providing the kind of assistance and partnership that's helping us to be successful. So thank you very much, and we will be back 2 weeks from now. Hopefully we'll have more information about the Ukrainian situation and ways in which you all or we all can be involved in planning. But until then, we'll keep working with the arrivals. We have 8 coming next week into the community. We'll keep finding ways to provide them with support. So thank you very much for everything, and have a wonderful rest of the weekend. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.